Hello everybody. In recent days you'll have seen that a new proposal has been published on the BHRC website for a new handicapping system, and this video is an accompaniment to that to hopefully just explain one or two more of the differing parts of the system and how things will hopefully work as time goes on. Now, it's obviously what's called a ratings-based system, which is where each horse is given a number to represent their form, and that will change, that number, depending on how they perform on the race course, either going up if they perform well or going down if they don't perform so well. Now, the system's designed to provide what's called a fluid racing environment, so horses can generally compete against those of similar ability. Now, it's loosely based on one that was implemented in New Zealand back in 2013. They had a similar system to the current BHRC one, which left a lot of horses basically being uncompetitive, and so they were being sold abroad or retired and so on. And so they introduced this. It's been a great success, so much so that it's subsequently been adopted by Australia as well. Now, the minimum possible rating is 10 and the maximum is 120, and you can sort of move between those depending on what sort of form you're in at that time. Now, in terms of the current pool of horses in the BHRC, they will be moved over on the conversion table that's in the document. So maidens will go in on a number of 18, novices on 26, and they go up by 8 points all the way up to grade 10s, which is on 106 as well. And then as the racing season commences and the horses move up and down depending on how they perform, obviously they'll all change, and things will sort of even themselves out over the course of the season. Now, on the document you'll see that there's a matrix to show you how much or you'll go up or go down depending on how your horse performs. So if you're 4th or 5th and there's no prize money, you'll drop a point. If you're 6th to 10th, you'll drop 2 points, and if you're 11th or 12th, you'll drop 3 points on this system. And the amount you go up on the system will depend on how much prize money you actually win as well for first place. So it's up to £300 is 8 points, and then it rises up all the way up to a maximum of 24-point increase if you win £5,000 or more. Horses will also get penalised for place money as well, but not at the same level. So if you win £300 first prize, you'll get 8 points, but if you win £300 and are second, you only go up 2 points as well. Now, as with the current system, there are allowances for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. So 2-year-olds will get penalised at 40% of the standard rate, 3-year-olds at approximately 70% as well, and 10-year-olds and upwards, who I'll call veterans for the purposes of this video, will get penalised at approximately 75% as well. So however you run in whatever race and however you perform, you'll either go up depending on the prize money will vary, or you will go down depending on, again, if there's prize money all the way down to 4th or 5th. If not 4th to 12th, you will drop between 1 and 3 points each time. Now, obviously, maidens will enter. So when a new horse enters the system, will be on 18 points. Unless you're 2-year-olds. 2-year-olds will start on 14 points, so you get a 4 points lower entry for a juvenile. Once you've won one race, you can't drop below 18, and once you've won 2 races, you can't drop below 26 either. And so that will prevent horses who have dropped down the handicap running in against horses who have newly entered the system, and obviously giving some sort of disadvantage or advantage depending on which way you wanted to view it. Now, the idea behind giving the 10-year-olds, the veterans and older, an allowance as well of just 75 points is to encourage people to keep the older horses in training. And also, horses will receive a 10-point deduction on their 10th birthday, and then each subsequent year after that as well. So as they get older, 10 points will be removed from each of the years as well, to again encourage the longevity. A lot of the system is going to be helped and encouraged by race promoters and race framers to be inventive and to try and cover lots of ground to give horses more chances as the season goes on. Again, there are different parts of the system to try and facilitate that as well. Claiming races, for example, you would receive no penalty for winning a claiming race, but the non-placed horses would lose in line with the matrix as well. So you'll lose between 1 and 3 points depending on where you finish, but winners are not penalised of a claiming race. Now, there was a lot of discussion about giving mares an allowance, and we've left it at the promoter's discretion. So they can receive an allowance of up to 5 points, but it must be advertised in advance. There's also further allowances for the mares and the veterans as well in terms of prize money. So if you have a mares only race and the first prize is £450 or less, you'll only get a 50% penalty. And for veterans only races, if it's £300 or less, you'll also only get a 50% penalty in there as well. And the same will apply to non-winners races. So with this system there'll be no novice grade, and maidens can compete against the other horses. It will just be that obviously they will have a rating based on their form, but they just haven't won a race, and that will allow them to have maiden races only, or they, if they're struggling to win maiden races, they can race in a handicap against horses of their perceived similar ability. In terms of C-class drivers, there's quite a few points there to try and encourage C-class drivers and more people to get involved, and of course with the system as well. Now it's just to say there'll be no penalty-free period in the season at any point, and you will get one penalty-free win in a C-class drivers race per horse in its lifetime. They'll be limited to 4-year-olds, horses and older, so no 2 or 3-year-olds can run in C-class drivers races, and they are entitled, as I say, to one C-class penalty-free win in their career as well. Now, in terms of handicapping and heats and finals, the first thing to say that a heat and final on the same day will be classed as one performance. So that means that if you win a heat and a final, the heat's £300, the final is £1,000, so you win £1,300 in total. You'll go up 14 points. That will be combined together for one lift, or one rise on the system, as opposed to going up 8 points to winning 300 and 12 points to winning the 1,000 as two individuals. They'll be clubbed together and treated as one contest. Now, also racing clubs and promoters who want to run heats and finals as well will have to do so if they're worth £1,000 from the top down. So they'll have to advertise whether it's the top 50, the top 32, the top 40, whatever they want to do as well. So they'll then go get all the entries, and they'll start at the very top, the highest rated horse, and go down the list in that sense, unless they want to run a free-for-all and open preferred handicap alongside that heat and final. Then they can take out the top 10 for the free-for-all, or the top 12, or however many, and then they'll start the handicap from the next highest rated horse down. For places like Tregaron, for example, where they'll run 2 heats and finals at the meeting, it will be sort of top 50, for example, for the Welsh Classic, and then the next 50 would go in the Strata Florida as well. There's one or two other things to mention around the sort of race framing there as well, is that they can have more conditions races basically, so you can have winners of one, or non-winners this year, or non-winners in the last 5, or unplaced in the last 5. We've talked about mares only to encourage more mares into races with the allowances, veterans races to encourage those older horses to run there as well. And we've also put together, going further down the handicap system, 1 or 2 things to try and encourage horses who currently aren't part of the BHRC to come and join the system. So whether that's Wales and the Borders, or Ireland, or Canada as well. And there's a couple of tables in there to show how they would convert over into the current system. I think that the best way to maybe try and sort of improve the understanding of how the system works, because I appreciate it's quite a lot to take in all in one go when you're presented with tables and streams of notes, is to maybe get a horse and run it through the system. So obviously, because 2020 has been penalty free, all horses, well with the exceptions of certain races, most horses are going to revert to the marks that they had, because they were penalty free anyway. So with the exception, as I say, of those 1 or 2 races, and then sort of work it from there. Go through 2020 in their form and say, well, they won 300 for first place plus 8, they won 600 for first place, and so on and so forth. And then you can see where they'd end up with a handicap mark as well. And the idea behind the system in terms of the top down from the handicappers and all that sort of stuff is to try and encourage horses to go up to the system. Obviously that's not always possible because some horses will be out of form, but they've got the chance to drop down to find their level at the same time as well. There is also one thing to say there is that in terms of if horses are perceived to have been not perceived, if horses are not trying, you get a freeze for 5 races if a horse is found not to be running on their merits. So regardless of where you finish in terms of dropping, it won't happen for 5 races, as I say, if it's based not on their merits as well. In terms of the other bits and bobs, if there's anything on there that you can't get your head around, or you just wanted to have a sort of quick ask or question about, then you can get in touch, drop them to the BHRC, and obviously I've been on one of the members of the Handicap panel who've tried to sort of tailor this system to suit the needs of British harness racing, and so either I or one of the other members of the panel will be able to answer those questions as well if you submit them. So in short, I think the best thing for the hopefully increased competition of British harness racing going forward will be to adopt this, and then with the horses getting their numerical rating, moving up and down to the system, they will always be moving up and down because that's what the system allows for. And again, for example, if 2 horses run 1 week off a handicap rating of 60, they're both rated 60, and the first prize is 300 quid. One wins and one finishes down the field in, say, 8th place. So the one that wins will go up to 68 because it'll get an 8-point increase for winning the £300, and the other one will drop 2 points, so we'll be on 58. So then the following week there'll be 10 points between them. And obviously with all the horses doing that, it gives the idea and the fluidity of the system greater depth to hopefully give horses together and put horses together who are at similar levels of form at that particular time, and there'll be a big encouragement to race promoters, race framers to put on races that will hopefully provide more competitive racing, so that we want the best horses running for the best money, and we want the races to be enjoyable and interesting, but to give people a chance to feel like they're being treated fairly by the system and given the opportunity to win in their level as they go up and down to the grades as well. So I hope that's been helpful to you. I know it might seem a little bit complicated, but as I say, I'd encourage you to run a couple of horses through the system, use the matrix that are on there with the different increases in terms of points depending on the ages and so on and so forth, and how much they've won. And if you sort of go through the year and go on plus this, minus this, and so on, then hopefully that will give you a greater understanding as well. But if you do have any questions, send them into the BHRC, and one of us from the Handicap panel will hopefully be able to answer your questions. So good luck everyone, and let's hope this works for the betterment of British harness racing.